If you had the superpower to stop time, what would you do with it? I believe everyone would have some evil thoughts in mind, because in a world where time stands still, there would be no constraints of morality or law. Human ugliness and desires would be magnified without limits. Today, we will talk about the story of a girl and her family who possessed this superpower. The girl's name is Yuri. She is a recent university graduate. This day marks the 18th job interview she's attended. But once again, she wasn't hired. Downhearted, Yuri returns home and prepares to cook for her brother and father, who do nothing all day. She also needs to pick up her young nephew, Makoto. At this point, Yuri finally can't take it anymore. She turns off the power to her brother Tsubasa's gaming console and tells him to go pick up Makoto from school. Seeing Yuri's strong attitude, Tsubasa reluctantly agrees, but Yuri has no idea that this decision will change her life forever. While Tsubasa is on his way back with Makoto, a group of men suddenly appears and drags them into a car. Soon, Yuri receives a call from the kidnappers. They demand that Yuri deliver 5 million yen in cash to an abandoned apartment in 30 minutes. If she's late, they will kill Tsubasa and Makoto. Her father Takafumi immediately grabs the family savings book and plans to rush to save them, but just then, Yuri's grandfather, Yukawa, informs them that the car has been borrowed by someone else. It's already too late to reach the meeting point. Just when they are at a loss, Yukawa suddenly pulls out a magic stone. He tells Takafumi and Yuri to place their hands on the stone. Yukawa cuts his finger with a knife and lets his blood drip slowly onto a hole in the stone. In the next moment, a barrier appears around them. 3 glowing orbs, resembling jellyfish, slowly enter their bodies. At this moment, time seems to stop. Butterflies flying in the sky, cars moving on the ground, even a lollipop dropped by a child. Everything freezes in the air. Yukawa explains that this is a world called Stasis. It's a superpower passed down from his grandfather. The 3 glowing orbs, which resemble jellyfish, are called specters. When another organism enters the world of Stasis through a magical stone, a specter will appear and enter the organism's body, allowing it to move freely within the world of Stasis. Conversely, when the specter is expelled from the organism's body, the organism will return to the real world. Yukawa only tells them this now, because those who enter Stasis are ultimately consumed by their own desires. The first person to master this superpower started by stealing money, but eventually, it turned into things like harassing women, and even more excessive acts. Yuri is curious and asks if her grandfather has ever done such things. Yukawa firmly denies, and says he would never do something disgusting like that. But clearly, Yuri doesn't believe him. Soon, the 3 of them arrive at the meeting point with the kidnappers. At that moment, the kidnappers are preparing to beat up Tsubasa and Makoto. Yukawa immediately saves them, but suddenly, a group of men burst in from outside and begin punching and kicking the 3 of them. Yukawa is confused as to how these men are still able to move freely, but there's no time to think. He uses his teleportation ability to escape with Yuri and Takafumi. However, the kidnappers use Makoto's life to threaten them and demand that they hand over the mysterious stone. But just then, a huge monster suddenly appeared behind the man. It immediately swiped its claw and crushed the man's skull. After eliminating the man, the monster quickly disappeared into the air, as if it had never existed. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Yukawa immediately used his teleportation ability to escape with Yuri. Yuri asked her grandfather about the origin of the monster. Yukawa explained that the monster was actually a time guardian from the Stasis world. In this world where time is frozen, people who can move around engage in battles with each other. The time guardian doesn't interfere with them, but if someone harms those frozen in time, the Time Guardian will appear instantly to judge the rule breaker. He further explained that their ancestors had once been one of the Time Guardians. While they were talking, a specter slowly appeared inside the man who had just been killed by the Time Guardian. The specter then flew into Tsubasa's body, and he immediately regained consciousness. Yukawa continued explaining to Yuri that the Stasis world is like a single frame of a movie reel. They can instantly travel to any place within it to escape the kidnappers. However, once they leave, it will result in Tsubasa and Takafumi, who have already entered this timeline, being trapped in that space forever. Yukawa told Yuri to go home and fetch the magic stone. While he went to save her brother and father, Following the kidnappers, Yukawa discovered that they all came from a cult called the Genuine Love Society. Here, Yukawa found another magic stone, as well as a recording of their trio entering the Stasis world. The reason why the cultists found Yukawa's family is all because of a girl named Shoko, who had just recently joined the cult. 17 years ago, she had accidentally entered the world of Stasis. Meanwhile, Tsubasa, who had just regained consciousness, was confused by the frozen world around him. He then found the unconscious Makoto and ran to the hospital while holding him. At the same time, Yuri arrived back home, only to find that the magic stone was missing. Just then, two men appeared and pushed Yuri to the ground. As Yuri was about to be choked to death, her eyes suddenly began to whiten. The next moment, she seemed to see the specter inside the man's body. She struggled and slapped his body. In the next second, the specter surged out of him violently. Yuri hadn't expected that she could directly expel the man from the Stasis world. Using her newly awakened powers, Yuri expelled all the men from the Stasis world. After retrieving the magic stone, she immediately rushed to her grandfather's side. Meanwhile, the leader of the cult, Junji, wanted to test the rules of the Stasis world. He ordered one of his subordinates to harm someone who was frozen in time. The next moment, the Time Guardian appeared and crushed the man's skull with one strike. However, Junji noticed something peculiar. It seemed that every time the Time Guardian appeared, its size would shrink slightly. Junji believed that if the Time Guardian's energy was completely depleted, he would be able to do whatever he wanted in the Stasis world. But what Junji didn't realize was that the specter inside the man who had just been killed had entered Makoto's body. Seeing Makoto wake up, Tsubasa was startled. Makoto, curious about the frozen world around him, began to play with it. At the same time, cult members were rampaging through a supermarket, stealing food without the constraints of law. Their greed was magnified to an extreme. Just then, they spotted Yuri passing by and remembered their task from Junji. Faced with the cult members' pursuit, Yukawa constantly used his teleportation ability to help Yuri escape. As they were about to go and rescue Tsubasa and Makoto, a person pretending to be frozen suddenly attacked them. Just as Yukawa was about to be stabbed by this person's knife, Yuri instantly activated her ability. She struck the person, expelling their specter from their body. With her abilities continuing to awaken, Yuri began to recall memories from her childhood. Yukawa had no choice but to tell her the truth. When Yuri's dog was close to dying, Yukawa couldn't bear to see Yuri so heartbroken, so he opened the Stasis world, allowing Yuri to spend more time with her dog. But Yuri, unwilling to return to the real world, refused to leave. When Yukawa tried to force her back, Yuri instinctively struck him. In that instant, she nearly expelled the specter from Yukawa's body, but Yukawa couldn't be sure if, at that moment, he had returned to the real world. If he had, Yuri would be forever trapped in the Stasis world. Yukawa ran desperately and eventually found Yuri, holding her dog. He believed that the Stasis world was too dangerous, and he didn't want Yuri to be involved in it. Then the two returned to the unfinished building, only to find that Makoto and Tsubasa were both missing. On the other side, at Yuri's home, the cult members, frustrated by not capturing Yuri, started fighting among themselves. Hayato knocked a fellow member to the ground, and the man, enraged, began attacking a nearby person who was frozen in time. At that moment, the Time Guardian appeared again and crushed the man's skull with a single strike. However, the Time Guardian had exhausted its energy and died on the spot. Shoko, who had witnessed this, discovered a man's body inside the dead Time Guardian. Shoko then shared her analysis. She explained that the Time Guardians in the Stasis world were once humans who had entered the world. Due to their lack of resolve, the specters had taken control of their bodies, transforming them into the true natives of the Stasis world. Shoko knew all this because, as a child, she had witnessed her own family members transform into Time Guardians. 17 years ago, Shoko's family home was being demolished. While cleaning up, her father found a magic stone. Coincidentally, at that exact moment, Yuri's grandfather used the power of the magic stone to take Yuri into the Stasis world. At the same time, the magic stone in Shoko's brother's hand was activated, bringing their entire family into the Stasis world. Shoko's father, overwhelmed by the sight of the frozen world, fell into despair. The specter took the opportunity to occupy his brain, turning him into one of the Stasis world's natives. Her mother couldn't accept this reality and, too, was consumed by a specter. Shoko's brother gradually disappeared with their mother, and in that moment, Shoko's body too began to be overtaken by a specter. Just then, Shoko encountered Yuri, carrying her dog. Yuri was surprised to see Shoko, who could still move in the frozen world. Instinctively, Yuri struck out, expelling Shoko from the stasis world. Thus, by accident, Yuri saved Shoko's life. When Hayato learned that Shoko intended to use Yuri's abilities to save her family, he decided to help her, but with one condition, that after they succeeded, Shoko would have to sleep with him. Shoko, desperate to save her family, reluctantly agreed to his terms. Just then, Yuri appeared and struck Hayato, sending him back to the real world. Afterward, Yukawa and Yuri returned home, where they found the Time Guardian that had recently died due to energy depletion. After some reflection, Yuri wrote a letter to Makoto and Tsubasa, warning them that their home was dangerous. Back at the cult's hideout, Shoko didn't tell Junji about her family's situation, but instead informed him that there may be more than one Time Guardian. Junji decided to conduct an experiment. Sure enough, the Time Guardian appeared. However, one of the men, seeing the small Time Guardian, kicked it away, but then, a massive Time Guardian appeared in the sky and crushed the man's skull. Shoko realized that the small Time Guardian was her brother, and the larger one was her father. She tried to remain calm but silently hoped that Yuri could help her. Yuri found her kidnapped father, Takafumi, and with Yukawa's teleportation ability, they successfully escaped. At the same time, Tsubasa, overwhelmed by the bizarre world, finally cracked under the pressure. Just as a specter took control of his brain, Yuri arrived in time to send him back to the real world. Then, Shoko approached Yuri again, asking for her help to save her family. After hearing Shoko's tragic story, Yuri agreed to help. They attempted to trigger the Time Guardian's appearance by having Shoko pretend to kill a frozen person. However, the Time Guardian didn't appear because Shoko lacked the courage to kill. After multiple failed attempts, Takafumi stepped in. He placed his hand on the man's neck and imagined killing him in his mind. This time, the Time Guardian appeared. Yukawa used his teleportation ability to rescue Takafumi, and Yuri jumped onto the Time Guardian's back to find the specter inside. Yukawa evaded the Time Guardian's attacks, while Yuri succeeded in expelling the specter from its body. Shoko also found her parents, who had long turned into desiccated bodies, and her brother, whom she hadn't seen in over a decade, in the remains of the Time Guardian. But to everyone's surprise, Shoko's brother was still alive. After this incident, Yuri realized the true nature of the stasis world. It trapped people in an endless cycle until they perished. The group then decided to use Yuri's powers to expel all the cult members from the stasis world. And once they returned to the real world, they would destroy the magic stones that could activate the stasis world. Meanwhile, in the cult, only Junji and 5 other followers remained, along with Shiomi, who specialized in gathering information. Junji revealed to Shiomi that he had uncovered the secrets of the stasis world. He believed that by controlling the specter inside him, he could attain immortality. Their conversation was overheard by a cult member. The member realized that Junji had been using them for his own selfish desires. So, they decided to resist Junji. When Junji noticed the unusual behavior of his followers, he decided to eliminate them. Now fully in control of his specter, he had become a self-aware Time Guardian. With his newfound strength, he quickly killed all the rebels. Only one follower remained, and Junji forced him to kill Yuri's brother, Tsubasa, to test whether there were any other Time Guardians in the world. At the critical moment, Yuri appeared and struck the follower, expelling him from the stasis world. However, in doing so, Yuri found herself in great danger. Fortunately, Yukawa arrived just in time and used his teleportation ability to rescue her. Since Junji had become a Time Guardian, he had to constantly replenish his energy. Without it, his specter would regain control of his mind. Meanwhile, Shoko managed to find Shiomi and tried to convince him to join their side. However, the negotiations broke down. Shoko was being chased by Junji. In an attempt to save Shoko, Yukawa and Yuri arrived at the scene, only to be ambushed by Shiomi, who slashed Yukawa's palm. But they didn't continue chasing them. They only took Yukawa's bloodstains. Yuri began to suspect something was wrong, and after discovering that the magic stone had been stolen, they realized Junji's true objective. He planned to use Yukawa's blood to activate the magic stone and expel Yukawa from the stasis world. Without Yukawa's teleportation ability, Junji would be able to kill them with ease. As the magic stone began to activate, Yukawa felt the specter inside him pushing to take control. Yuri immediately urged him to use his teleportation ability to take her into the heart of the barrier. However, once they arrived at the core, Yuri discovered that blocking the whole of the magic stone was futile. As Yukawa was about to be expelled from the stasis world, Yuri made a decisive move and shattered the magic stone. Junji, realizing something was wrong, rushed to the scene. When Xiaomi saw that the magic stone had been destroyed, he quickly decided to join Yuri's side. Now, only Yuri had the power to help him escape the stasis world. Yukawa was filled with guilt, knowing that they could all escape the stasis world using Yuri's abilities. However, Yuri couldn't use her powers on herself, meaning she would be trapped there forever. Meanwhile, Makoto awakened the inherited abilities of his family, and his ability turned out to be the power to control a time guardian. Upon hearing the commotion, Yuri and her group rushed over. When they discovered that Makoto could control a time guardian, they immediately decided to team up to eliminate Junji. Soon, they found Junji, and Yukawa used her teleportation ability to draw his attention, allowing Makoto to control the time guardian and attack him. At that moment, Junji's body suddenly began to expand, eventually bursting open to reveal Junji's true form. It turned out that after so much time spent fighting, the energy within him had been completely depleted. Junji immediately tried to flee, but was ultimately blocked by Yuri. Without hesitation, Yuri struck Junji in the chest. And finally, Yuri and her family succeeded in killing Junji. After everything was resolved, Yuri used her powers to send everyone back to the real world. Now, the stasis world was left with only Yuri. At first, she was optimistic. She would record time in her notebook, go shopping at the supermarket, and visit the library. In short, she did everything she could to entertain herself. But slowly, Yuri's mentality began to change. The world of frozen time was beginning to drive her insane. She started to feel despair. Just as she was on the verge of becoming a monster, a figure appeared in her mind, continuously drawing her towards it. When Yuri woke up, she discovered a woman standing before her. The identity of this woman shocked Yuri. It turned out that she was the creator of the stasis world. She was born with Spectre inside her, making it as natural for her to travel between the stasis world and the real world as breathing. Hundreds of years ago, her husband killed a massive specter to forever be with her, using its eyes to create the magic stone. However, her husband could only live for 200 years. This was the maximum lifespan for humans using the stasis world. Of course, this woman was an exception. She then handed Yuri a business card and told her to come visit her in the real world when she had the chance. The woman easily took Yuri out of the stasis world, and Yuri was finally reunited with her family. The story ends here, but the entire plot of the anime takes only a minute.